Spurs take on the Raptors tonight, and will the Spurs make any deals?
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Spurs right here on the Locked On NBA Network. I am your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for Kings 5 San Antonio. Glad to have you back. Hope everybody's having a great middle of the week. Hump day, everybody. Let's just get past it and get right to the weekend. What are we talking about today? We're going to be looking at tonight's game, Spurs-Raptors. Also going to be asking, are the Spurs going to make any additional trades after they made a deal with Miami to, at least for now, bring back a familiar face, and much, much more. This episode was brought to you by LinkedIn Talent Solutions. Make sure to check out linkedin.com later on. We'll talk about that and much more. And we thank you for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. Free and available wherever we get podcasts. I think we need to have the trumpets out playing right now. We need to have the red carpet rolled out. Some nice looking young ladies spreading flowers all over the floor on that red carpet, because he is back, everybody. James Pledger, San Antonio Spurs star's very own, is back on Locked On Spurs after a long hiatus. Not for the lack of trying. We tried to get him on a couple of times, but he got swamped bad. I mean, didn't you say you did 80-something hours in 1 week at work? A little ridiculous.
Yeah, the other week was kind of crazy. I think I had an 85-hour work week, but
good Lord. Yeah, and then I feel bad because I know Pledger's available in the evenings-ish, but then I know he has work. I go, do I ask him to come on anyway? Because I know he's going to get up at 2 a.m. to go work out. So
I mean, it depends what your definition of evening is.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you're on the Men in Black. Remember the Men in Black? They had a 36-hour day. Remember that? Yeah, they had to get used to it. So, Pledger is back, everybody. We missed him here. We tried to get him on, but we finally got the schedules to match up. Make sure to follow Pledger on Twitter at @IamPledger, and he is with San Antonio Sports Star, co-host of the Saturday Morning Hangover. He'll talk about that in a few seconds. But Pledger, I guess we got to talk about it because it's on the schedule. So let's make this short and sweet, kind of like the Spurs second half, short and sweet for the last few games during this losing streak. But Spurs-Raptors tonight, second game of the rodeo road trip. Let's just get to the chase. Another L is coming, right?
Yeah. I mean,
yeah. There you go.
It's done. Hard to deny what is coming. Can they win? Sure, they can win. I mean, this is the same team that started 5-2 to start the year, which, by the way, told everybody to calm down.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you made it very clear to everybody to chill out. Yeah.
Let this thing play out, and it did. And but seriously, yeah, can they get a win? Yeah, of course. They could get a win any given night against any given team. But this is not looking good, especially when you look at recent injury reports that have you without three of kind of your best players. The one person who made the All-Star weekend, and Jeremy Sohan, suck on that mic. So your rising star that's going to be participating in All-Star weekend, he's out with that back injury, suffered a few games back. Trey Jones has been dealing with a foot injury that's kept him out for a couple of games in a row. And Romeo Langford's been out for a few games in a row now. So, I mean, you're just dealing with a lot of injuries to a team that you really can't sustain injuries in the first place if they want to get wins, because they're hard enough to come as they are at full strength. I mean, you're already without Devin Vassell for most of the season. We don't know what his timetable for return is. I'm hoping next season. Just get healthy and we'll see you next year, man.
Yeah.
This year is going exactly how we planned.
I look at the Spurs team and they're just so hobbled right now. If a 100% team goes up against that Bulls game recently, I think they may have had a shot with Devin and Trey and Sohan. And let's not forget too, Keldon Johnson says that he's not at 100%, that his ankle is still bothering him. So he's,
and for me, shut him down if he's not.
Yeah.
It's the same thing I have with Devin. Don't put these guys out here at less than for them to possibly get hurt worse. just shut them down, man. This season is what it is at this point.
Yeah.
There's no moral victories. So, yes, do I think Keldon can play through this injury? Sure. Do I think he should, being what this season is, what it is? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Like,
no.
I treat everything as if it is the biggest injury, just because I don't want to risk your future for what is obviously not a present.
Yeah, I mean, what's the point? The season's already a wash. I've told everybody in the last few episodes of Locked On Spurs, if you want to have a easier way to swallow the pill of L's, the losses, just think of this as an extended training camp, because that's all it really is. That's all it is.
But I also think that my statement from this preseason, when I told everybody, hey, guys, this is not going to be easy, so these are the things you got to look for. We've seen those things this year. Jeremy Sohan's gotten incrementally better throughout the entirety of the season. We have seen them play well against certain teams for, 2.5, 3 quarters. We have seen Malachi Branham start to kind of come around and get some stuff going. Blake Wesley has finally returned to the fold. Like, these are positives that you can take away from a lost season. And, look at the growth here. Look at the growth here. It's the little things within the season that you have to look at when you're dealing with something like this. Trust me, I know.
Yes, you do, Mr. Rockets fan who's been dealing with rebuilds for the last, 3 years now? How long the Rockets been on a rebuild? Yeah, that's right, and Texans fan, yeah. The Spurs come into tonight's contest 14-40, 9-game losing streak. Raptors 25-30. Spurs are 0-1 versus the Raptors this season. And again, the Spurs are coming off a loss to the Bulls, 128-104. Total collapse in that fourth quarter. It was just bad. I mean, it went from
that, Jeff, where the Spurs in that game against the Bulls at one point were down 25. It was the 12th time this year the Spurs have faced a deficit of 25 points or more.
Well, here's the thing too. The Bulls went on some 30+ point to 10 run that it started from the third quarter into deep into the fourth quarter to 10.
And then let's not forget in the first quarter.
Yeah, and let's not forget this too. Remember that Philly game in San Antonio, the last game before the road trip? The Sixers, they went on like a 20-something to nothing run in a matter of seconds, not minutes, seconds. Like, it was just like 85 seconds and it was done. Like, the game was over. And what happened? It was in the fourth period versus the Bulls. It was in the fourth period. I think maybe the team kind of knows what's in store for them if they keep this up, a high draft percentage to get that number 1 pick. Let's look at some of the numbers tonight. The Raptors have won 4 straight overall against San Antonio, and defense has been an issue for the Spurs. The Spurs are allowing 125 points per game this month.
Yeah.
While they're scoring 112. So there you go.
Here's the great thing about tonight's game, Jeff. And I don't know if this was perfectly planned, if they're trying to save travel costs or what. I mean, there's a good chance that they could leave somebody in Toronto.
Oh, yes. Well, we're going to talk about that in just a perfect segue, though. Good story. I love that. So, yeah, Spurs-Raptors tonight. Hopefully the Spurs will snap their losing streak. If not, just think big picture, everybody. Development and those lottery odds. When we get back, we're going to be looking at a recent Spurs deal. Yeah, the Spurs are active, quote unquote, in this trade deadline week. Who did they trade for? Does it really matter? Was it pretty much to do about nothing? And as James teased right now, could there be a bigger deal on the horizon right here on Locked On Spurs with James Pledger of the San Antonio Sports Star? Now I want to talk about LinkedIn Talent Solutions. As small business owner or hiring manager, you know that success in 2023 all depends on team members you surround yourself with. That's why you got to check out LinkedIn Jobs. With LinkedIn Jobs, you can hire qualified candidates more efficiently by matching open roles with people who have the skills, values, experiences to help you achieve your goals. LinkedIn Jobs helps you quickly attract qualified candidates to your open jobs with targeting tools They go beyond the resume data by using insight from your job post, company, and their 875 million member profiles to put your post in front of the most qualified candidates. Identify the most qualified candidates on LinkedIn Jobs and connect them fast and for free. LinkedIn Jobs makes it easier to screen and rate applicants based on your job qualifications, all on one platform. That's why small businesses rank LinkedIn Jobs number one in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. Post your job for free right now. Terms and conditions apply. We're back right here on Locked On Spurs with James Pledger with San Antonio Sports Jar. And the NBA trade deadline is approaching, and Locked On has you covered. Thursday, February 9th, tune in to Locked On NBA on YouTube at 2 Eastern to hear a reaction from the trades that will change the rest of the NBA season. Who becomes contenders? Who is planning for a better future? Spurs. Subscribe to Locked On NBA on YouTube and don't miss a deal. James, you set us up nicely in segment one.
Thank you.
Deals. You did a really good job. We'll talk about a certain individual that is in Canada right now and maybe could stay there and started his career there in the NBA. But the Spurs recently did make a minor move ahead of the trade deadline. For the first time ever in franchise history, the Heat and Spurs made a deal together. They never have made a deal. Yeah,
First time ever.
First time ever, yeah.
That's actually kind of shocking. I didn't know that.
Yeah. They flirted a few times, but they've never.
I knew the flirtations have been there.
Yeah.
DeMar DeRozan was one of those flirtations.
LMA, remember? LaMarcus Aldridge?
Oh, yeah, LaMarcus.
Yeah. But
except we got nothing for that.
Got nothing for that. Yeah, way to go, Spurs. Could have helped the current situation a lot better. But anyway, Spurs Heat. Spurs receive a future second-round draft pick, 2028, has been reported, and former Spurs center Dwayne Dedmon, and the Heat get cash, coveted cash. Now, it's more than likely, maybe by the time we listen to this show, that Dedmon is no longer a Spur. All signs are pointing to he'll likely get waived. In essence, Pleasure, the Spurs just simply bought a draft pick because that's all they really did.
Well, yeah. I mean, look at it this way. The Spurs are doing something for the Heat. The Heat are lining this up for a secondary move of some sort. So the Spurs are absorbing into their cap space Dwayne Dedmon's contract, which is expiring, so you can buy him out, and he doesn't count against your roster. So there's nothing that you have to worry about from that angle of it. You get a second-round pick, and the Heat get space to bring in someone else, both roster and cap. So it's a multi-purpose function for both teams in terms of the Spurs are getting something that they want. They're getting a draft pick in the future, and they are also, using cap space that, is something that they have a lot of this year, that they can afford to absorb contracts onto players or teams and really help them out in those instances. Right. And usually when you're doing that, it's for a draft pick. And the Heat, they're getting a roster spot open to possibly make another move to bring in a contributing piece for their postseason stretch run. And they've also cleared some cap space for them to also make that move. So it's a win-win for both teams. Both teams are kind of getting what they want, which is why when you hear about a Russell Westbrook trade or whatever it may be, you're hearing about multiple firsts attached to Russell Westbrook, because that's what it's going to take for us to do that favor for you is you're trying to unload this space to do something. We can absorb that, but it's going to cost you in the form of a future first-round pick of yours. And that's what's been kind of the roadblock between the Lakers and Spurs or whoever it may be in a Russell Westbrook deal. The Spurs could easily absorb that contract and make it work, buy him out, whatever it may be. But to do so, if you want us to do that, it's going to cost you something that we want. And what they want are draft assets.
Right. Yeah, and it doesn't stop there because you look at the recent move history the Brian Wright and the Spurs have made. What has it been? Picks and cash. Picks and cash. That's been the bulk of it. Picks and money. That's the Spurs are just simply setting themselves up for the future. And you have this report yesterday that came out via Amico Hoops that the Spurs are also the asking price for Josh Richardson is a second round pick and an expiring contract. That's not too steep of a price. I think if you're a contending team, you can do that.
No, I mean, for Josh Richardson, you talk about a player that can ultimately help the Lakers. If I've got a second rounder and an expiring contract, that's a deal I'm trying to make. I don't care what contender you are. Josh Richardson would be a big help to a lot of teams and be kind of a 6th, 7th man off the bench for him and a very good contributor to a team with postseason aspirations. Hell, I think he would be a very good piece, probably coming off the bench in Dallas after losing Dorian Finney-Smith and Spencer Dinwiddie in the Kyrie Irving trade.
Yeah. That's not a high sticker price, but I'm a little surprised. I thought the Spurs would, because they have the leverage, because they got the money, they have the players that would help teams like a Josh Richardson, Poeltl. We'll talk about that in a few seconds. Even McDermott, that, hey, go for broke. Maybe ask for 2 seconds and an expiring contract. I don't see why not.
And maybe that's the thing, because we know about the asking price for Poeltl, which seems absurdly high, right?
Right.
When you're trying to get 2 first-round picks from a team in order to obtain Jakob Poeltl's services, who is also on an expiring deal, by the way. But Josh Richardson, maybe you set the floor low and see if that increases bidders. And if you get teams bidding against one another, those seconds turn into a first. It might be almost the reverse of set it high, see if people can come to meet that asking price, maybe set it low, see if it raises the price because you get multiple people involved in the bidding.
Yeah. But as far as the Dedmon deal, again, there's nothing official right now, but likely Dedmon will be waived. I'm pretty sure he doesn't want to be part of a rebuild, and he's probably asking, just let me go. I'll go sign with somebody else, and somebody will pick him up. He'll have a
lot
job.
of people that's the
path. Yeah, that Dedmon's going to take. But no, so there you go. Trade season's underway for your Spurs. How about that? What a home run the Spurs did. But perhaps the home run is coming up later this week. Maybe today. Maybe this whole segment will be worth nothing because the Spurs made a deal right now when we're recording this. When we get back, we're going to look at we're going to be looking at the Miami deal again and asking the bigger picture. Was this it for Jakob Poeltl in San Antonio? Right here on Locked On Spurs with James Pledger with San Antonio Sports Star. And before we continue, I want to talk about FanDuel. This year, the only app you need at your Super Bowl party is FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Really excited here at Locked On about our new sports betting partner because they're the #1 sports book in America, FanDuel. If you're new to FanDuel, well, it's even better. They have so many great features that make betting on sports fun and easy. Download FanDuel right now so you can bet on Super Bowl 57 with a no-sweat first bet. You get up to $3,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. FanDuel lets you bet on everything from the money line to point spreads to who will score the first touchdown. Now, FanDuel Sportsbook app is safe, secure, and super easy to use. Best of all, you get paid your winnings instantly. Get it right now. Join FanDuel today at FanDuel.com/lockedon to claim your no-sweat first bet on Super Bowl 57. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. We're back right here on Locked On Spurs with James Pledger with San Antonio Sports Star and the co-host of the Saturday Morning Hangover. He is on Twitter at @IamPledger. And what's your boy Jimenez doing in Radio Row on Phoenix with Sports Page showing off that? He's risking it all.
A lot, he's risking it. He got my envy this week.
He's going to risk
Paige
it all. Don't do it,
Spiriniak.
Jimenez. Don't do it, Jimenez. Don't risk it
Paige
all.
Spiriniak is one of my favorite follows on Instagram and now
I wonder
TikTok
why.
as well. But
I wonder why.
Well, she's a golfer, and I golf, so that was initially one of the first things. But also, she's insanely hot, and she was named Maxim's hottest female of the year, and I have no disagreements with that. She is awesome, and her content's actually really funny a lot of the time. She's self-deprecating a lot of the times. So, I mean, it's a lot of things, but I am rarely jealous of Jimenez. He got
this
me
was one time.
He got me.
He got you. Did he? He texted me some photos. Did he text you photos too?
Of him and Paige.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got those photos too, and then a lot of follow up, which I will not share on Locked On Spurs. Yeah, I'm not gonna share that here on Locked On Spurs. But needless to say, Jimenez is having fun, and the sports star is having fun out in Phoenix. Pleasure. We'll talk to you about that and much more in just a few seconds. But hey, we're talking about the Spurs making deals. They made one already with Miami, my very minor, but nevertheless, could this be a setup for a bigger deal? Simply because now the Spurs have another trade asset that is another draft pick in their war chest. They have somebody who reportedly has been coveted by a lot of teams, Jakob Poeltl. You hinted that tonight somebody might stay behind in Toronto, because that's the name of a team that does want Jakob back on their roster. So I forget, Toronto drafted him way back when. Are you buying or selling that tonight could be Jakob's last day in San Antonio?
Oh, I'm absolutely buying it. It's
okay.
Kind of very, very convenient that there have been two teams that we have heard fully in on the Jakob Poeltl sweepstakes. One of them is Boston. The other is Toronto. They happen to be going to Toronto tonight. So, I mean, could this just all been part of the plan? Hey, we'll get you to Toronto. You don't even got to pay for a flight. We can leave you there. You can walk to the other locker room during the game. It's fine. I don't know if it's that well planned out, but I mean, we are so close to the deadline, under a week away from the deadline.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes sense that if they truly are in on it, this would be one of the times for them to possibly pull the trigger where that they can kind of keep him in house, if you will. I don't know if the 2 first is it, and that may be the roadblock that comes to getting this deal done in terms of him staying behind in Toronto as opposed to closer to the deadline. But I mean, there are a ton of teams that Yacht can help that I'm kind of shocked aren't in on the mix as much as I've heard of Boston and Toronto. I figured Golden State would be one of those teams that could really, really use a Jakob Poeltl as for this season. The Lakers, the Clippers, there are some teams that could use a big like Yacht that I'm kind of shocked I have not heard more rumblings about them being in the mix.
Yeah, for me is the sticker price. If all these reports are true, 2 first-round picks for Jakob
for 2 months. That's a first rounder per month.
Yeah, I mean that's high. I don't think the Spurs will get that unless a team is just desperate. Unless somebody stirs up the pot, and I'm making this up, a Milwaukee gets involved. Oh my goodness, then that will force a Boston or a Toronto to be okay. What's your asking price again? Spurs, you got it. I can see something like that happening. Philly gets involved.
If he doesn't get moved by the deadline, because remember, there is still the opportunity, like you did with DeMar, to sign and trade him. It just becomes less, free flowing of this is the best offer I'm sending you here, more so this is the team you want to go to. I can get something in return still by doing a sign and trade so that you can get your maximum contract value.
Yeah, that sticker price is a little steep. And look, I get the Spurs position. They're going to want to go for it. Like they got it with DeJounte. That's a haul. They pulled off a first round pick with Toronto for Thad Young. That's pretty good.
That was a shock.
Yeah, it was just So perhaps they're just feeling that they're feeling themselves like, okay, we can do this again. But I think you got to come back down a little reality. I would not mind a first rounder for sure, but perhaps an expiring contract. Maybe a young player you can help develop and put him in the timeline of this rebuild, something like that. But we're talking about, will the Spurs make some more moves? We're speculating that Jakob could be next. We just talked about him, Josh Richardson, buy or sell. He's his last days in San Antonio are here.
You mean as in last days leading up to the trade deadline?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Buy. I'll buy Josh Richardson. I'll buy on Jakob Poeltl.
Okay.
You
buy on McDermott?
I don't know if I buy that these are his last days, but I am highly alert to their possibly his last days.
Yeah. I could see him definitely sticking around in the rebuild for some
I can't see him
reason.
sticking around, but I can also see him moving just because, A, his contract, B, he does something that a lot of teams in the postseason covet, which is shoot at a high percentage. So he provides a service. I just don't know. But those, if we're talking about possible players that could be dealt by the deadline, those are the three that I would keep the closest eye on here over the next couple of days.
Yeah, it looks like, I think, I don't even, and I know all signs are pointing to, Poeltl getting dealt, the strongest likely situation. But man, there's something about, in my opinion, the Spurs keeping him and re-signing him because of you're not guaranteed to win the draft. And this Spurs team can fall down all the way to 7. God.
Look at this. You can trade him, get something for him, and then throw a bag at him in free agency because he's going to be a free agent no matter what. He can't be re-signed at this point this late in the season. So you get at least a chance to make an offer to him.
And the reason why I'm a little hesitant on Jakob being dealt and perhaps getting re-signed is because of the amount of cash the Spurs have. They're not cash strapped at all. If Jakob asks for a bag, they can give it to him and be okay. Who's next? They'll be fine.
Exactly, which is why I say trade him and then just go blow him away in free agency if you truly want him back. Like that's not over like something that's absurd because of the cap space that the Spurs are set to have this coming season. So I don't mind moving him with the thought of possibly trying to bring him back.
So basically, you're George Costanza. You're double dipping. You dip the ship and you eat it, and then you dip it again. You want a double dip.
I absolutely want a double dip. Look, sports is a cutthroat, ruthless organization. Like the Spurs need to do something ruthless. Like if you want to get back to the top, like trade somebody away and then go re-sign him in free agency. Therefore, you get value out of him and still manage to keep said player because you're going to have the cap space to do that if you so choose.
Yeah. Hey, look, it's going to be interesting the next few days for San Antonio. We know, I think by now we get the assignment, getting the many L's as possible to beef up that draft lottery. They're well on their way. I believe at this recording, Pleasure, they're in the top 3 worst teams, right? Record-wise.
Yeah. They're third right now behind the Rockets and Pistons. They are a half game back of the Pistons and a full game back of the Rockets.
Good. Keep it that way, Spurs. Check. If you're doing a checklist for a successful season, there's your check number 1. Check number 2 is if you can flip Jakob and get the max deal you can, I think that will be good. And then, or perhaps then pull what Ledger is doing, the Costanza and double dip, in the offseason.
Showed up a bit, maybe.
Yeah, if he doesn't re-sign with said team or sign some sort of extension offer for whatever team he might go to. But it's definitely going to be an interesting next few days for your Silver and Black. Good thing you have San Antonio Sports Star and Locked On Spurs to have your back and cover all things Spurs and Spurs trade deadline. Speaking of the Star, what you guys got cooking? Almost all of you are in Phoenix right now for Super Bowl, huh?
Yeah, everybody's in Phoenix with Radio Row. Lots of stuff going on, lots of interviews. Already had LeGarrette Blount, Ryan Leaf, David Tyree, Bill Romanowski. So the list of names has kept growing. Later this week, we're going to have Emmett Smith. I'm sure Michael Irvin will be on. So just stay tuned to San Antonio Sports Star all day. We're going to have everything you need to get you ready for the big game. Plus, we are locked in on the moves as we head down the trade deadline, whether it is Spur or not, because, man, I'm still wondering if Kyrie was the biggest deal of the trade deadline or if it's going to get even wilder.
I got a feeling it's going to be subpar, like in the grand scheme of things. I think there's going to be a minor move for future offseason big moves.
Maybe, but I think the Kyrie thing was a nice start to it.
It was nice. I wasn't expecting that. I thought he was for sure going to LA. I said, no, he's going to LA. They're going to figure something out.
And the fact that you heard, like, the Suns tried to flip Chris Paul for him. Like,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. That's how bad the Suns wanted him, and I get the whole age thing and everything, and the Suns are not having the greatest of seasons.
So. Oh, I get it too. It's just
I get
a very hard thing to walk back.
Exactly.
Once it becomes public.
Hey, Chris Paul, how you doing?
Hey,
Is your brother around? Is your brother around Cliff? Can we talk to Cliff instead? He's nicer. Yeah, he's nicer. All right, we're done talking. We want to hear from you. Let James know your thoughts on the Spurs, tonight's game, the minor trade. Is that a setup for a bigger trade? If you think that's what's going on, let him know on Twitter at @IamPleasure. Check out his show, The Saturday Morning Hangover. Every Saturday morning, hence the name, Saturday Morning Hangover. And thank you for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. And speaking of those pesky trades and the trade deadline, yeah, you definitely want to check out the trade deadline special. We have you covered, as mentioned earlier, the NBA trade deadline on Locked On NBA YouTube at 2 p.m. Eastern, Thursday, February 9th, so tomorrow. And check out Locked On Game to Game, your second listen. Locked On Game to Game NBA is available on Odyssey app, YouTube, wherever you get podcasts, just like Locked On Spurs, the Kings 5 Plus app, YouTube, and many other spots. So for James Pleasure, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lock on this episode of Locked On Spurs.